Did you know that oats weren't just for breakfast? Back in the 19th century, they were also fried into meatless burgers. Now, these oatmeal patties were a popular dish, especially among the working class, and for good reason. They were cheap, easy to make, and most importantly, filling. The recipe is simple. Just mix oats with water and seasonings. Form them into patties and then fry them up in a pan with a little bit of fat. The oats absorb the flavor of the fat and become incredibly juicy and delicious. And because they're high in fiber, they stay filling long after you've eaten them. These oatmeal patties can be served hot off the pan with a dollop of butter or, and this is really fancy, a fried egg on top. If you've ever wondered what boiled cabbage looks like, you're in for a treat. Cabbage is cheap, hearty, and can be endlessly stretched. Sometimes it's the only vegetable on the plate. In this case, it was boiled for 45 minutes to get that perfect golden color. And then we added a little bit of salt and pepper. And here's the finished dish. It might not look like much, but let me tell you, it tastes absolutely delicious. The best part about cabbage is that it's so versatile. You can eat it raw, you can cook it, you can add it to soups and stews. It's a real crowd pleaser. This recipe is so easy, even a child can do it. And it's perfect for those nights when you don't feel like cooking. Just boil some cabbage and you're done. So next time you're at the grocery store, pick up a head of cabbage and give it a try. You won't be disappointed. When you think of stale bread, you might think it's a waste. But in the 18th century, they had a delicious way of using it up. They called it bread pudding. This is how it was done. Take your stale bread, soak it in milk and sugar overnight. The longer, the better. Then you take that bread, squeeze out the excess milk and sugar, and then you bake it in the oven until it's nice and hot. And for extra flavor, they would often add things like butter or even chocolate. And this was a treat that both kids and adults could enjoy. In fact, it was so popular that they would often make it in huge quantities to feed large groups of people. And the best part is it could be made with any type of bread, sweet or savory. So the next time you have some stale bread, don't throw it out. Make yourself a nice sweet bread pudding. Your taste buds will thank you. Did you know that during World War II, people would eat bananas? See, this was before the days of easy, cheap bananas. They were actually really expensive to buy. So people would mash up carrots and then add flavorings like vanilla or rum extract to make them taste like banana. And it worked so well that the British government even got involved. They didn't want people wasting their precious sugar rations on fake bananas, so they had to get creative with rationing the carrots as well. One banana a day keeps the Nazis away, right? But if you didn't have a banana, you could just mash up some carrots and pretend. And if you couldn't get those, you could always just eat regular carrots. I mean, they weren't gonna be as tasty, but they weren't gonna kill you either. This is a food that many people hate and some people love. It's cheap dried beef smothered in white gravy, poured over bread, also known as SOS. I grew up eating this occasionally, and I still love it to this day. Some people say that it tastes like cardboard or sandpaper, but to me it's a delicious, if not unhealthy, comfort food. The way that they make it in my family is we use a can of chipped beef, a can of cream of chicken soup, and a whole bunch of shredded cheese. We pour the beef and the gravy over top of the bread, and then we put even more gravy on top of that. And then we bake it in the oven until the cheese is all melty and bubbly. And yeah, this is definitely a dish that you either love or hate. There's no in between. So do you love it or do you hate it? Let me know down in the comments. This is the weirdest thing that I've ever eaten, and I'm pretty sure that it was also the last thing that your great-great-grandparents ate before they died. Corn cob jelly. Yes, even the corn cobs were boiled down to make a sweet jelly when nothing went to waste. Back in the day, every part of the corn plant was used. The kernels, the silk, the leaves, even the cobs. Nothing went to waste. The kernels were dried and ground into a powder, and then mixed with water and sugar to make corn bread, corn syrup, corn whiskey, and even corn milk. The silk was used to make tea. The leaves were used to wrap tamales, and the cob was used to make a sweet jelly. This corn cob jelly was an accidental invention by Native American tribes. They would boil the cobs for hours until they were soft, and then they would grind them up and strain the liquid. What was left over was this sweet, syrupy substance that tasted like caramel, and it could be used as a sweetener or a thickener for other dishes. Today, corn cob jelly is still being made by some Native American tribes, and it's a popular item at craft fairs and farmers markets. Have you ever heard of corn cob jelly? Would you ever eat it? Let me know in the comments below. Well, I'm about to show you what poor people ate when they had very little money, but it was still a good source of calories. This is cornmeal mush. And no, it's not just a type of food that poor people ate. It was a staple for many families who had very little money. Cornmeal mush is very easy to make. You simply boil cornmeal and water together, and then you can eat it plain like this. Or you can fry it up with a little bit of oil and eat it like a pancake. Or you can add syrup if you have it, which makes it taste even better. Now, cornmeal mush may not sound like the most exciting thing to eat, but it will fill your belly and keep you full for a long time. And that's why it was such a popular dish for poor families who were struggling to get by. So the next time you're feeling hungry, try a simple cornmeal mush. You'll be glad you did. I want to share with you guys a salad that I've been eating a lot of lately. It's called dandelion greens. Foraging is becoming more and more popular, and it's a great way to find free food in your own backyard or in fields nearby. Dandelions are a great source of nutrition, and they have a long history of being used as a medicinal herb. The leaves are very bitter, which is why they're often overlooked. But that bitterness is what makes them so special. When we were growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, so my mom would forage these bitter greens from people's yards and use them in salads. She would make dandelion tea. These greens are so bitter that they're almost inedible, but they're actually one of the most nutrient-dense foods that you can eat. They're full of vitamins A, C, D, and K. They also contain iron, calcium, and potassium. If you're looking for a wild edible that's easy to identify and has a ton of health benefits, then look no further than the humble dandelion. This is Depression-era cornbread and milk. It was the poor man's comfort food. I grew up eating this. My grandmother would soak the night before. She would take the cornbread, crumble it up, and then soak it in milk. And then the next morning we would eat it with even more milk. It was so good. She would also add sugar and cinnamon, but you can just do cornbread and milk. It's really good. The sweetness from the cornbread, the crunchiness that you get from the milk. It's like a dessert, but it's also like breakfast. It's kind of like a sweet bread pudding. And this is all you need. This is like 5 ingredients or less, maybe even 4 if you don't count the water that's in the cornbread. I have a recipe for this. I'll put it up right here. It's really easy to make. And if you want to see more Depression-era recipes, let me know. There's a lot of things that you can make with very little ingredients that are just so freaking good. Do you know what the most popular cake was during World War II? It was this one. No eggs, no milk, no butter. It was called a wacky cake. Back then, all the ingredients were rationed except for sugar and flour. So this cake was a favorite because you could make it without using any of the rationed ingredients. Let me tell you how it's made. First, cream together the sugar and flour. Then add some baking soda and vinegar. And this is how you make the wacky cake batter. It's so easy even a child can do it. Next, you pour the batter into a pan and bake it in a low oven for an hour. When it's done, you let it cool completely before frosting it. And you can use any type of frosting you want. Now here's the wacky part. After the cake is cooled, you cut off the top to make it flat. And if you have any leftover batter, you can bake that in a smaller pan and use it as a topper. And then you just let your imagination run wild and go crazy with the decorations. This is one of the cheapest, saltiest, most filling sandwiches ever. And it's no surprise that it became a Depression-era staple. I'm talking about fried bologna sandwiches. Now, bologna was invented way before the Depression, but it really took off during it. This fake meat was made to look like the real thing, but it was way cheaper, and it could be mass-produced. It was made from leftover scraps of meat, supposedly from veal, along with some salt, pepper, garlic, and paprika. The mixture would then be ground up and formed into a loaf. And because it was so dense and hard, they had to actually fry it to make it taste good. They would cut it up into thin slices and then fry it in their own juices until it was crispy. And then they would put those crispy pieces of fake meat between 2 slices of bread with some mustard and call it a day. And while this sandwich may not look like much, it was a godsend for people who were struggling to put food on the table during the Great Depression. This is Hoover stew. It's a hodgepodge of macaroni, canned tomatoes, hot dogs, and beans. This dish was born during the Great Depression when people were so poor they couldn't afford to buy meat. So they turned to the next best thing, which was cheap canned goods. The beauty of this dish is that it can be made with whatever ingredients you have on hand. And believe me, when money is tight, this stew will keep your family full. Here's how it's done. Cook your pasta according to the package instructions. While the pasta is boiling, dice up some hot dogs and throw them into the pot. Add in a can of diced tomatoes, a can of tomato sauce, and then a can of beans. Season with salt and pepper and let it all simmer together. When the pasta is cooked, add it to the pot and stir everything together. And that's it. You've got yourself a meal. This dish is so hearty and filling that it will stick to your ribs. It's the perfect comfort food for a cold winter night. And it's also great for feeding a crowd. So the next time you're feeling a little blue, why not whip up a batch of Hoover stew? This is hot milk sponge cake, a Depression dessert that stretched basic pantry staples into something that felt special. During the Great Depression, people were eating a lot of plain baked goods like white bread, white rice, and white pasta. And they would often use their imaginations to make these meals feel more exciting. This recipe is from a cookbook called Comfort Foods for a Cash Crunch Nation. And it's one of my favorite recipes because it takes these humble ingredients and turns them into something that feels special. You're gonna need some all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, sugar, milk, and eggs. The original recipe calls for evaporated milk, but I'm using whole milk because that's what I have on hand. And it also calls for a little bit of butter. We're gonna start by whisking together the dry ingredients, then add in the wet ingredients and mix until just combined. Then we're going to pour the batter into a loaf pan and bake it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 40 minutes. The original recipe suggests serving this warm with a little bit of butter and some fresh berries. But I'm gonna be honest, I like it better cold. This is the story of lard sandwiches, a desperate but common meal. During World War II, people were so desperate for food that they would spread lard, which is pig fat, on their bread. Some would add a little bit of salt or sugar to make it taste better. This was a common meal for poor people and soldiers who were fighting in the war. Lard sandwiches were easy to make, and they used up some of the most basic ingredients that were always available: bread and fat. During the war, there were food shortages and rationing, so this was a great way to use up what little you had. The downside is that lard sandwiches were not very filling and they didn't last very long, but people were so hungry that they would eat them anyway. Today, lard sandwiches are still eaten in some parts of the world, but they're more of a novelty item than a staple of the diet. You can buy pre-made lard sandwiches at some grocery stores, or you can make them yourself. So next time you're feeling a little hungry, you might want to try a lard sandwich. It may not be the most delicious thing you ever ate, but it's definitely a meal that will fill your belly. This is one of my favorite ways to make bread pudding, and it's really, really easy. Take a good quality milk toast bread. Soak it in warm milk with a little bit of sugar or cinnamon. You can do both if you want. Just let it sit for a few minutes until the bread has absorbed all the liquid, and then you can eat it. You can do this with any type of bread, but the milk toast is my favorite because it's already sweet. And the way that it kind of melts in your mouth, it's just so comforting. It really reminds me of my mom making me hot chocolate with marshmallows when I was a kid. If you have a sweet tooth, you can add more sugar, or you can use flavored milk like vanilla or strawberry. And if you don't like cinnamon, you can use nutmeg or allspice. But I love the way that the cinnamon makes the milk taste so warm and rich. This is such a great supper for anyone who doesn't want to eat a heavy meal, especially when it's cold outside. This is like the ultimate comfort food. This is the most disgusting food I've ever eaten. And it's not even real. This is a mock apple pie. It's made with crackers, sugar, and spices. The idea is that you eat the crust first, then you fill it with the sugary spice mixture, and then you top it with more crust. And then you bake it in the oven like a normal pie. But there's no apples. And if you didn't know that going in, you would be absolutely disgusted by the end of it. I actually did enjoy it though. It was really crunchy and had a good amount of sweetness. But it wasn't until after I had eaten the entire thing that I realized how unhealthy it was. This pie has more than 30 grams of sugar per serving, and there are only 2 servings in the whole pie. That means that one slice of this pie has the same amount of sugar as an entire candy bar. Let's make mock turtle soup, a fancy-sounding dish made with organ meats instead of real turtle. This was a common way of stretching pennies in the 19th century. And it's also a really impressive dish to make because it looks so fancy, even though it's made with the most humble of ingredients. To get started, you're gonna need some beef or veal hearts, some lungs, maybe a little bit of stomach. These are all organs that are typically used for stock, but they can be cleaned and prepared in a number of different ways. I'm going to cut these up and then fry them off in some butter until they're nice and crispy. Then I'll throw them into my slow cooker. After that, I'm going to add in some chopped carrots, celery, and onions, plus a few cloves of garlic. Now, we're going to let this cook for a little while. Then we're going to blend it, and we're going to serve it up with some crusty bread. And there you have it. You've made yourself a very fancy soup that's actually quite healthy and very, very cheap. I grew up eating this. You're probably wondering what it is. It's onion soup. And no, it's not made with onions. It's made by boiling a single onion in water. Sometimes we'd have like a little bit of broth or milk at the end, but mostly it was just water. My mom would make this all the time when I was a kid. And it was really easy. You just boil an onion in water, salt and pepper to taste, and then you blend it. And that's it. Now, back then, we didn't have a lot of money, so my mom would stretch this out to feed a family of 4. She would serve it with some bread on the side, and we would eat it all up. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of things that I could have done to make this better. Like, I could have grilled the onion first. I could have put some butter in there. I could have added some thyme or rosemary. I could have used chicken broth instead of water. But this is what I grew up on, and I'm kind of glad that my mom didn't make it any other way. This is one of the most disgusting recipes I have ever seen. It was promoted as a healthy and nutritious meal for those on a budget, and it is peanut butter stuffed onions. This is not an April Fool's joke. This is an actual recipe that was posted by a food blogger. The recipe is really simple. You just take a whole onion, hollow out the center, and then fill it with peanut butter. The only thing that might be more disgusting than that is the fact that they actually charge $3.75 for this onion. As a kid, I used to love eating raw onions. I don't know why. They were just so crisp and refreshing. But this is just wrong on so many levels. The fact that you can't see nor taste the onion in this dish is just a bonus. If you like your food to have some sort of nutritional value, then skip this recipe and just eat the damn peanut butter. At least that way you're getting some protein. Have you ever heard of potato pancakes? These are grated potatoes that are fried into these delicious, crispy, golden brown cakes. They're often served as a main dish, and they can easily replace meat at the table. I mean, just look at this beauty. It's so crispy on the outside, fluffy inside, and it has this amazing golden glow to it. The best part is that they're really easy to make. Just grate some potatoes, squeeze out any excess moisture, then fry them up in neutral oil like canola or rice oil on low to medium heat until they're nice and crispy. You want to be patient and cook them slowly so that they don't burn. While they're cooking, you can make a simple sauce by combining sour cream or Greek yogurt with some chopped parsley and salt and pepper to taste. And when your potato pancakes are done, you can serve them up with a generous amount of sauce on top. Trust me, this dish is a crowd pleaser, and it's definitely worth giving a try. What do you think is the best dessert? This one might look complicated, but I promise it's not. It's called prune pudding. And yes, it was even served at the White House under FDR. This sweet, sticky dessert is made with prunes, sugar, butter, flour, and milk. And it's really easy to make. Just mix everything together, pour it into a pan, and bake. The result will be so worth it. Just look how happy this family is eating it. This is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen someone eat. It's called Ritz Cracker Mock Chicken. And basically, it's when you mix together Ritz crackers and condensed soup, and then you form it into a ball. And then you roll that ball around in more crackers to make it look like a chicken nugget. and then you serve it with more condensed soup. This dish is an absolute abomination. I will never eat this again. But I did it for you guys because I love you. And you should try it because you might like it. It was so easy to make. I just took a can of cream of chicken soup, a can of cream of mushroom soup, and then I mixed them together. Then I put some salt and pepper in it, and then I mixed it all together. Then I took my trusty mini muffin pan and I started pressing the mixture into the bottom of the pan. And after that, I just rolled it around in some crushed up Ritz crackers. And then I put it in the oven. After it was done cooking, I took it out and I served it with a little bit of the soup that we made earlier. And it tasted so good, it really did taste like chicken. Spam has been around since 1937, and when it first came out, it was the protein of choice for cash-strapped families. During the Great Depression, people would use Spam to make all sorts of creations, including Spam and eggs, Spam and potatoes, and even Spam and ice cream. That last one is a little weird, but also very delicious if you're into that sort of thing. But one of the most popular Spam recipes back in the day was Spam, apple, and cheese sandwiches. This was a quick and easy way to use up leftover Spam and add some variety to your meals. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good sandwich? But if you're looking to spice things up, you can always go for the Spam musubi. This is a Hawaiian dish made with Spam, rice, and pineapple juice. It's sweet, it's savory, and it's definitely a crowd pleaser. So next time you're feeling hungry, why not try one of these delicious Spam recipes? You may just be surprised at how much you enjoy it. This is one of history's most disgusting desserts. It is a vinegar pie, a tart made with nothing but vinegar, sugar, and flour. No one in their right mind would use vinegar as a base for a dessert, right? Well, believe it or not, this was a common substitute for lemon pie filling during the 18th century. Back then, lemons were extremely expensive, so if you wanted to make a tart, you had to get creative. And apparently people thought that vinegar and lemon taste pretty similar. So they started using that as a base and adding sugar to balance out the acidity. And then they would just bake it all together with flour and salt and call it a day. I mean, it sounds disgusting, but apparently it actually tastes really good. I don't know about that. Would you guys try it? Let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, let's move on to the next pie.